Okay, so we're going to start. Well, today we're going to talk about rhombi and squares. Now, rhombi is just the plural form of rhombus. A rhombus might look like to you like a diamond. So all four of those examples right there are rhombuses. So they look like diamonds. So rhombi has their own little set of properties, just like rectangles and parallelograms have their own set of properties. Rhombi is going to have all of the same rules that parallelograms do, which are these rules right here. And then it's going to have its three extras. One of its extra rules is that all four sides are congruent. So that means that all four sides are going to be equal. Okay. Another rule that it has is that the diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so that means where they cross is going to make a 90-degree angle. Okay, so right there in the middle where the diagonals cross is going to make a 90-degree angle. And then the last little rule is that the diagonals bisect opposite angles. So that just means that it's going to cut those angles in half. Okay, so let's look at a couple of examples. Let's look at number one. So for rhombi, let's look at number one. And it says JK is 12. So that means JK right here is 12. And JN, which is this little piece right here, is 7. Okay, it wants us to find JM. Okay, I know that all four sides are equal. So it means if this side is 12, then all of the sides are going to be 12. Okay, so that means that JM, which they asked me in the first question, is going to be 12. Okay, then they asked me for JL. So JL is going to be, let's do that in purple. JL is going to be the whole diagonal right here. Well, I know that half of it, they told me, is 7. And we know that they bisect each other, so this other half is also going to be 7. So the whole thing from J to L is going to be 7 plus 7, which is 14. Okay, let's look at number 2. So it says EF is 23 and DF, which is going to be this whole thing, is going to be 40. So I'm going to draw from here to here to show that the whole thing right there is 40. Okay. So they want to know GF first. GF is going to be right here. So that's one of the sides. I know that all of the sides are going to be 23. So that means that GF is going to be 23. Then they would like to know HF. HF is just as half. So I just want half of the whole thing, which was 40. So half of 40 is just going to be 20. Okay, let's scoot down to number 3. RT is 22. So that means from R to T is 22. And then U to S is 18. Okay, they want to know VT. VT is just going to be this part right here, which is just going to be half of that 22. So that's going to be 11. And then UV, I'm going to do in maroon. UV is just going to be half of that green, which they said was 18. Half of 18 is 9. Okay, let's look at this one with the angles. So if this part right here is 38, it's already told me that the diagonals bisect the angles. So that means it cuts the angles in half. So if this is 38, then that means that 3 is going to be 38 too. Okay? And then we know from dealing with rectangles and parallelograms that these angles over here, if this one's 38, this one's going to be 38 because they're alternate interior. And because this is a rhombus and it's going to be bisected, that means that this half is going to be 38 too. So I know right off the bat that 4 is 38 and 5 is 38. Okay? It also said that the diagonals are perpendicular. So that means that where they cross is making a 90-degree angle. So that means that that angle right there, number 8, is going to be 90 degrees. Okay? If I know that this angle is 90 and this angle is 38, all angles in a triangle are supposed to equal 180. So I should be able to do 180 minus 90 minus 38 for angle 6, and I'll get 52 degrees. So that means that angle 6 is going to be 52 degrees. Okay, then that helps me know the rest of them because I know that this other half 7 is 52 because it says they bisect. These sides are going to be equal. And then I know that this 2 and this 7 are equal because they're alternate interior angles. And then I know that this 1 is also 52 because one of the rules is that of a rhombus is that it bisects. It cuts this angle in half. Okay? So let's do one problem where we have to actually set up an equation and solve for x. Oh, we don't have one of those. Okay. So I guess we'll just save that for squares. Okay, yeah, there's some with squares. Okay. So let's look at squares. So squares are kind of special because squares are going to have all of the rules of parallelograms, all of the rules of rectangles, and all of the rules of squares. So every rule that we've ever went over for any kind of quadrilateral is also a rule of squares. So all of these rules right here are rules for squares. Okay? So let's look at number 6. And we're not going to do, well, no, let's look at number 7. And we're not going to do PQ. Okay. But we're going to do pretty much the rest of them. Okay, so it tells us PQRS is a square and TR is 17. So from T to R is going to be 17. Okay? And then it wants us to find each missing value. And that's all it gives us, and it starts off and tells us to find PR. Okay? So PR is just going to be this whole diagonal. Well, if half of it's 17, that means that this half is 17, and 17 plus 17 is 34. So that means the whole thing is 34. Okay, then it wants QS. So it wants the other diagonal. Well, one of the rules of a square is that the diagonals are congruent. The diagonals are equal. So if PR is 34, then QS is also going to be 34. Then it wants QT, which is just this half right here that I'm doing in pink. We already know from this earlier problem that half of 34 is going to be 17. So that means QT is going to be 17. Okay? So then it asks for angles. The first angle it asks for is PRS. So PRS is going to be this. Okay, so stay with me. We know that the all angles of a square are 90 degrees. Okay? And we also know that these diagonals bisect it. So that means each little part that I'm doing in orange is going to be 45 degrees for every single square you ever see. Okay? So that means that this PRS that I have in blue and now I'm marking in orange is also going to be 45 degrees. Okay. Then it asks for STR. Okay, I'm going to erase this so we can kind of start over so we can have a better thing to look at. Okay, so I know that this is 45. That's what I just found out. Okay. STR, which is right here. One of the rules of a rhombus, which is also a rule for a square, is that the diagonals are perpendicular. So that means where they cross is going to make a 90-degree angle. So that means STR is going to be 90 degrees. Okay? PSR. PSR is going to be this angle right here. We know that all of the angles of a square are 90 degrees. So I'm going to say that's 90. And then QPR. QPR is going to be this half, okay, which we know half of that 90 degrees is going to be 45. Oh, that's 45. Okay. So I'm going to show you really quick how to set up some of these equations. I'm not going to work them all out for you because I think that we can solve equations. I'm just going to kind of try to show you how to set them up. So look at number 8. It says if it's a rhombus, find MP. Well, I know that opposite sides are congruent. I know that this side is going to be equal to this side. So I would just set it up. 9x minus 77 equals 3x plus 7. And I would work it out. If you moved all your stuff over, you would end up getting 6x equals 84. You would divide by 6, you would get x equals 14. And then it wants MP, so it wants this side right here, right? If you find either one of these sides, we know that all four sides of a rhombus are equal, so I can plug 14 into right here. So 3 times 14 plus 7 is going to equal 49. So that means all of these sides are 49, so that means MP is also going to equal 49. Okay, look at number 9. So I know that if this is a rhombus, I know that these two sides of this angle, these two parts of this angle are congruent because one of the rules is that diagonals bisect the angles. So that means that this 5x plus 1 is going to be equal to this 8x minus 20. Okay, and then we would work that out. Okay, let's look at this last one. So it says FGHI is a square and it wants you to solve for x. Now, we already talked about this whole angle is 90. And we know that this diagonal cuts that 90 in half. So that means that this little part that this expression is talking about is going to be 45 degrees. So I would do 7x plus 3 equals 45. And then I would solve it. 7x equals 42. And then I would divide by 7. And then x would equal 6. Let me know if y'all need any help. Email me. Um, Send me a message on Google Classroom, whatever you need. See you later.